I love that, and I think what you're touching on is also at the core of a lot of the work that our training and our research shows, which has to do with the fact that, again, we're meaning-making machines, that we go through our day-to-day lives trying to disambiguate commonly ambiguous situations. That you and I will be sitting here, for instance, and I'm trying to figure out what you're thinking, and you're trying to figure out what I'm thinking, and we rely on incomplete information to fill in the gaps. A student who goes to college, who comes from a high school that's relatively well supportive, they come from a family that's always there and engaged, they have a close-knit group of friends, and all of a sudden finds themselves in these large lecture classes with no friends, and the instructor is not as engaging and supportive because they have larger classes, is left trying to figure out, what does this mean? And what's really at the core of the adaptive mindset skills training is figuring out two things. One is, what are the questions that people ask? And then what are the answers that they come up with to answer those questions? And what's really important to highlight is that both the questions and the answers are important. Now, the questions are sometimes the questions that are, that are things that come to mind because of the normative perceptions that are given to us. So stereotype spread. It's a great phenomenon that tells us that there are these general stereotypes about one's group, that you will believe yourself to be viewed in a certain way. And so absent any other explanation, and because we're sort of motivated to defend ourselves, when there's ambiguity in the context, when there's ambiguity in our interactions, we're actually more likely to make negative attributions for why things are happening. Now, the other thing that's important to clarify is that when things are going well, none of this work matters. Like when you're getting a good grade, everyone's supportive, and everything's falling into place, everything's fine and dandy. But when it matters, when the ambiguity comes online, and there's a room for flexibility of how you fill in the meaning of that ambiguity, it's usually in the face of challenge and difficulty. And so if I'm a first-generation student, for instance, I've never had the kind of supports and the structures to tell me how to study effectively or what even failure is supposed to mean to me. And I'm placed in contexts where for the first time I'm exposed to difficult content and I'm getting negative feedback. I might be more likely to attribute internal and fixed sort of explanations for why that's happening. So I might think it's because I'm dumb and that'll never change. So the adaptive mindset sort of skills training program, what it tries to do is to identify the core set of maladaptive questions that people ask in the face of ambiguity and difficulty. So if you can offset and identify and forecast when those negative questions might be posed, for instance, you mentioned trying to create a classroom culture where you're able to allow a student to make the more adaptive attributions about what their identity is seen like. So you want to encourage them and reassure them that their question is valid, that their thoughts are valued. But absent those things, what can individuals do to hopefully be nudged to make more adaptive attributions in the face of ambiguity? And that's what this training does, is identify those moments of critical ambiguity where people might make negative attributions, where I might wonder, am I smart enough? Do I belong, and does it matter? These are the kind of core questions that students ask whenever they're faced with a difficulty. And the program that we've developed is specifically intended to provide more adaptive attributions to those questions. So that's a great point.